How's it hanging, everybody? My name is Steve, this is Horns Held High, and today I am reviewing Feed the Fire from hardcore punk project BillyBio. Now, BillyBio is the solo debut project of Billy Graziadei, the lead guitarist slash vocalist for rap rock slash punk band Biohazard. Feed the Fire was released on November 30th, 2018 on AFM Records. This is the first solo project for Billy Graziadei. He's had multiple band projects in the past, but this is his first solo project as just him. And right now, BillyBio is touring through parts of Canada and the eastern United States through the first half of December, primarily with the band Thy Will Be Done. So I definitely thought this album had a lot of energy to it. I felt the title of this album was fitting, Feed the Fire, this fire of energy, fire of anger and frustration with politics, social systems, things like that. I definitely felt this album had a lot of high energy. I always have respect for solo projects, considering that Biohazard hasn't put out an album since 2012. I might consider this a spiritual successor to Biohazard. I'm not quite sure. But either way, it's still good to see a solo project from someone who's known for a bigger band like Biohazard to kind of explore their musical horizons and see what kind of music they can come up with. Even though in this situation, this album does sound quite similar to the bigger band Biohazard. If you're looking for an album to try to get into punk music, I actually would recommend this. I feel like the lyrics are pretty atypical. The sound of most of the songs is pretty atypical for what you would find for traditional punk, but it's just in a 2018 setting with 2018 production. So from that standpoint, I would definitely recommend this album if you're trying to get into punk, trying to dip your toes into the punk pool, if you will. So with the high quality production that comes with putting out a punk album like this in 2018, I did almost feel it was a little too much at certain points. There were certain spoken word samples and other audio effects that I felt like it was a bit much for what's supposed to be a punk album. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always been under the impression that if you're a punk act as far as production goes, the simpler the better. So I was kind of surprised to see the amount of production in this album and the amount of effects put on the songs for this album, considering it's a punk record. There's two songs on this album that I seem to have some particular issue with. The first being No Apologies, No Regrets. There's a specific lyric in the song that says, I take no shit but respect the laws. It's on a song called No Apologies, No Regrets. What is that supposed to mean? It's a punk album. The song is called No Apologies, No Regrets. But then BillyBio says, I take no shit but respect the laws. There seems to be a bit of a disconnect there. I get the perspective he's coming from. I understand the message he's trying to send out. But at the same time, to me, that message seems a little contradictory. The last track on this album, Disaffected World, you could have just chopped off the last 2 minutes and the song would have been just as good as any of the others. For whatever reason, the last 2 minutes of Disaffected World is just all these effects, and there's almost like a droning synthesizer or bass sound in the background. And to me, it was just completely unnecessary, and it was kind of a buzzkill to end the album on. It was actually the longest song on the album, at about 5 minutes or so. So if you cut off the last 2 minutes, it would have been about a 3-minute song with all the good punk parts, and it would have blended with everything else just fine. So as far as the mood of this album goes, it's very fast and very heavy in a traditional punk sense. The lyrics are very atypical for a punk record, all about social and political unrest. So as far as the mood of this album goes, it's very atypical for punk. Very fast music, very heavy music, lyrics relating to politics and social climates of the world in 2018. So, like I said before, this would be a good toe dip into the pool of punk if you're looking for a way to get in, because the mood of this album is very typical for a punk record, just evolved into a 2018 setting. Also, in the second half of this album, you'll find one rap rock song titled Untruth. Its beat and lyric delivery are very on par with stuff that Biohazard used to put out. So again, you're seeing these similarities to music that Biohazard put out. But again, Biohazard hasn't put out an album since 2012, so in a way, BillyBio's record might be the spiritual successor to Biohazard. I felt the songs blended pretty well together on this album. There were decent punk riffs throughout, really not a bad apple in the bunch, but there were two songs in particular that kind of broke up the action, but not for the better. And that would be the two interlude songs, Remedy and Trepidation. And I'll get to that in a minute. For me, the best song on this album was Generation Z. I felt it was easy for new generations of punk fans to identify with, and I felt the chorus was pretty memorable on this track as well. Even just from the title, Generation Z, it's directly targeting the young people, the current generation that are growing up in these somewhat strange social and political climates we're living in the United States. And it's a two-way tie for least enjoyable song, and that has to go to the two interludes, like I mentioned earlier. The interludes Remedy and Trepidation. They broke up the songs, but not in a good way. They broke up the heaviness of the album, not in a good way. Remedy was only 33 seconds long. It had one repetitive lyric over and over again, and there was this kind of annoying bass or synth sound in the background that, after a couple seconds of listening to it, I was just like, okay, I can't tolerate that anymore. And for Trepidation, it was acoustic, and it really didn't fit well with the other songs for me. You go from these heavier, more overdriven, riffy songs to this 2-minute long acoustic piece that just kind of was a downer between songs. So with all that said and done about Feed the Fire from Billy Graziadei's solo project BillyBio, I'm going to give this album 5.5 horns out of 10. Like I've been saying throughout this review, it's a good toe dip into the pool of punk if you're looking to try out punk music, especially in 2018. But beyond that, it really didn't have a lot of value for me. What did you think of the album? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments. As always, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And remember to keep your horns held high. And I'll see you in the next one.